Welcome to another Hope, Power, and Healthcare with Chris Hemphill and
Melissa Riley. I felt like you wanted to say Melissa Riley, Chris.
I wanted to, but then that would be like 9 minutes of me just talking nonstop. It had to end somewhere.
That's amazing. We have a special guest today. Why don't we have her introduce herself?
Hey everyone, I'm Bree Bacon. Yes, my name is a food. I like to say I'm a baguette waiting to happen. Very brandable.
Oh, I didn't put that together till just that moment, but I love it. It's actually like two foods, right?
There's two foods. I mean, if you like brie cheese, bacon for breakfast, yeah.
Bree Bacon, and you're a musician, so we can jam together. And that's the Hope, Power, and Healthcare charcuterie joke that hopefully Alyssa will edit out of this episode.
That was actually quite good. It was really good.
Well, let's get into it. Like, why are we jumping on live? Like, this was originally intended to be a recording, but at the last minute we decided, hey, let's jump on this thing live. People are exhausted right now. There's a lot there's a lot of burnout. We recently had an episode on clinician burnout, and we just wanted to expand the aperture on that conversation. We've been getting a lot of positive response because that explored the intersection between empathetic leadership, addressing burnout, and even incorporating art in these political movements and things like that have been getting some positive progress on addressing these issues. But we wanted to expand it outside of just that clinician perspective. Bree, we're so excited to have you because of the effort that you've been putting into helping people to understand how to manage their energy and things like that. It's important to understand how to show up, how to maintain your energy, how to maintain your rest, and get prepared for those big picture issues that you're fighting for. Because if you're listening to this podcast, it's likely that you are an aficionado of health equity and equal rights and things like that, and the science is on your side. It's just that sometimes it feels like the politics and the stuff overhead is not. So we want to just resupply with that energy, provide some ways for you to be able to help yourself and keep showing up. I don't know, is that a pretty good intro to what you want to help people do, Bree?
I like it. I love it.
Okay. Well, can you give an introduction on this elite energy concept and just some of the background and the stuff that's led to what you're doing today on helping people with maintaining and managing their energy?
I would love to. So let me give it an overview first, and then maybe I can back up of where did this whole thing come from? So I launched my debut book, Your Elite Energy, in June, and I like to tell people energy in physics is simply defined as the capacity to do work. And we all have a capacity to do work. Elite, as an adjective, stands for the best or most effective. So all together, when I say your elite energy, it stands for your personal best capacity. And in the book, what I take this little device, which clicks back and forth. If you guys have seen that before, it's called Newton's pendulum or Newton's cradle. And what I love about it is that in physics, it teaches about the conservation of energy, along with a lot of other principles. But I loved that as just a metaphor and a picture for our own energy, our own capacity. And so I take Newton's pendulum and I turn it into a framework to think about how you're investing in your capacity for yourself, for your teams, for your organizations. And so I take the base of the pendulum, and that's your personal values and beliefs, the 3 to 5 principles that you personally want to stay grounded in, no matter what comes your way in a day, and that you want to represent in the world. The 3 center balls, what I call the core, that stay steady as the 2 end balls go back and forth, is what you're doing for your mind, your body, and your heart, your mental, your physical, and your relational or social health. And then the end 2 balls is what you do to rest and recharge, and what you do to reach and challenge yourself. And then I talk about health being a state of being or a goal, which we can't always help our state of being, But what we can help is wellness, which I define as the actions, the decisions, the habits that you're doing to support that state of being or that goal. And then well-being is how that whole ecosystem works together to unlock your best capacity for yourself, for your organization, for your loved ones, etc. So that's what Your Elite Energy is all about.
Super freaking cool. And Melissa, I do a lot of the talking, but I really feel like this is way more your wheelhouse, like knowing the amount of inspiration that I get from what you share on Instagram. What are some of how did y'all come together? Because I know you made the introduction. How did, and Melissa, for folks that are watching that don't know, Melissa's the queen of new opportunities and saying yes. Look, she's on hosting a podcast. It's first time hosting a podcast and doing wonderfully at it. So the energy that she brings into exploring new opportunities and trying new things, that's something I hope people can imitate. But I just want to hear how y'all came together.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'd actually been tracking Bree's career a little bit, just because we happened to be at two organizations together, kind of overlapping. And so she was briefly at the last payer I was at. And when she left, I was like a little saddened because, it was great to see like a friendly face there for sure. And then we had an opportunity to reconnect at one of my favorite organizations, the WBL. And she shared her book with me, and it really just, again, personally resonated. We just had so much more in common. I totally believe in this idea of energy, both protecting your energy, that you can pass energy to others. And just, I was very, very curious to learn more. And, we just, every time we talk, we just kind of vibe off each other. And I love that.
Melissa was around. We have met a couple of times, but during what I call my crash and burn experience. So as an executive, I had my own crash and burn experience, which just instigated this whole mission and passion. And so if you're okay with it, I'll tell a little bit of that story too. Is that okay?
Oh, please.
Yeah. So I was always kind of in executive careers, 20 plus years in corporate America in different roles. And my husband and I, when we were starting to try and have our family, we experienced 5 miscarriages, which was kind of my first foray into the healthcare system personally. I had been working in healthcare, but it was the first time that I experienced healthcare and was needing to use the system myself. Fast forward a little bit, my husband and I were able to have a miracle baby girl in 2021, and I was beyond thrilled. Just like we finally have our miracle that not everybody gets after 5 miscarriages. And so I wanted to give 110% to her. At the same time, I've always been a go-getter, a leader, someone that loves achieving and loves to work hard and, be a servant leader for my team. And so I wanted to also give 110% to my career and my team. And so there I was giving 110% to my daughter and 110% to my work and my team. And I like to say for a while it worked. I was doing it all. But then eventually I started to have panic attacks and I knew I needed help. And so I reached out to doctors and therapists and experts of, what am I doing wrong here? Like, there's other people that are able to handle this. Like, what I've been in some of the, best training and MBA program and leadership development programs. And did I miss a class somewhere along the way? Like, how am I not able to do this? And, the advice I got at the time was all over the place. Like, try yoga, go for a walk, read a book. And I was like, well, first of all, I don't have time for any of that stuff. But also, how does this all interconnect? And like, how is this helping me have my best self for my daughter and for my team? And how do I manage all of this? And so fast forward to the summer of 2022, my husband and I found out we were unexpectedly pregnant. And I was thrilled thinking, okay, now my body knows how to do this. We can add to our family. But I miscarried again. And that loss just sent me over the edge. And for someone who hates the idea of failing, I knew I needed to step down from my role so that I could just focus on my health and my family. And so it was after that kind of just step down and crash and burn experience. I was in the mountains of Montana with my husband, just trying to reset and process like everything that had just happened to me over that previous season and all the random advice I had gotten that didn't connect. And that's when this visual of Newton's pendulum came to mind as a way to just visualize how am I protecting and taking care of my ecosystem, not out of this like, selfish need of like me, but like if I'm going to give my best for myself, but also for my daughter and my team, like I only have so much capacity. I'm human. I'm not a robot. I'm not a machine. I need to be investing in my capacity and my ecosystem. And so this gave me that visual that now I use to check in with myself to say, okay, when I'm feeling off or not like my best self, what am I doing for these different visual components? And do they need to change or shift, or am I staying true to them so that I am bringing my best each and every day?
I know there's a lot of deeper stuff to discuss, but when you said that, hey, other people are able to get through this, what's wrong with me? That's something that really resonates, because I just see it so much where people put all this blame and burden on themselves, seeing the perfect image that other people are projecting, like on LinkedIn and Instagram and stuff like that, when really it just highlights that we're all working hard and struggling here.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, all the statistics that I didn't know at the time, but like 7 out of 10 executives wanting to step down due to concerns about their well-being, 1 out of 2 managers, like 8 out of 10 employees, like, you are not alone in your struggles. And it's so common. And I feel like we as a society just need a reset of how we're approaching work and life, because it's not working,
Yeah, and I feel like I live by this idea of this happiness equation. It's like your expectation minus your reality equates to your happiness. And sometimes when you're in those corporate systems, I know I've experienced this personally, and don't know if it resonates for others. I had these expectations: by this point in time, I'm going to be at this stage or at this level doing that. And I see others that might be up and higher, and I'm going, well, what did I do wrong? Why can I not start to achieve that level through that system? And so that's like sometimes that expectation of getting there, it isn't based on how wonderful you are, how much people love you. There's so much that goes into the equation of promotion. And so when you don't get to that point and you kind of feel maybe let down by the system, I think it can do for achievers, I'll speak for myself, it can do a hard number on yourself to say, well, how come I didn't get there? Or how come my family doesn't look the way I wanted my family to look like? I know I experienced that in my divorce, that, I wanted that nuclear family, and being a single mom had an element of like shame for me. And so, starting to not necessarily lower my expectations, but, living by that motto of more like, wherever I am, there I am. And, I think I'm great, and I can be happy with where I am. Even if it doesn't conform to the system that others want me to be achieving within.
I love that. I also am like in those before seasons. So part of my new mission, because I have left, 20 plus years in corporate America, because I really want to get this into organizations and teams and individuals, because I feel like people need this system to think about their ecosystems and what they're doing for themselves, right? But I talk about sometimes that before seasons, like before promotions, before, new team formations, when you're in that waiting period, are you being intentional about how you're investing in all these different components and what you're going to do in that after season to support yourself? Because once you are promoted or in that increased scope, like there's extra stress and responsibility and things that come with that, right? So when you're in the before seasons, how do you prepare for that so that you're ready in the after season?
One thing that's wild is like we often hear about these conversations and we talk about it conceptually directly in terms of like the framework and how it looks. And we of course want to have space to get into that. But if we talk about it in kind of an applied manner, just how's your week going? It kind of gets us into a mindset of like, hey, how are these principles working out in the real world? And it's just something we talk about every week. There's always some value in hearing about what's going on. I heard the P word, payer, mentioned a bunch of times, and the people on that side during this annual enrollment period process, whatever you call it, they probably need that boost the most. But let's go round robin. I'll start with Melissa. How's the week going? What's been going on?
Well, since we've already created such a safe and vulnerable space to share. I will go a little super deep in my chat this week. This past 2 weeks have been a big struggle for me. And I thought it was because, well, tactically, I know why the struggle is existing. So, as we talked about a little bit before, I made my first foray out of residential real estate into commercial real estate. So I shifted lanes completely. What I found in that shift is that not all parties to my transaction, AKA my husband and potentially the bank, weren't all in line with this purchase. So I've been spending my free time, managing expectations around like, where are we headed, right? And you guys know me, I am a persistent person. Do not bet against me. I will make this thing happen. But I feel like I am duct taping and bubble gumming it and restating appropriately without violating GAAP principles, accounting statements to make this whole thing work out. And I'm going, man, this is another job. I just ended up burning myself out because I did not protect, that energy. On the relationship side, I think my new identity of shifting from payer to entrepreneur might still be worrying my payer husband a little bit because he's going like, this feels risky. Didn't you plan this? I'm like, honey, I'm a project manager. I got plans, right? I just was not anticipating, the roadblocks. So that's been me. It's a perfect tee up to our episode today.
Feel it, 100% feel it. Especially, oh my goodness, like just you're venturing into something already in something new, now adding that new, and I'm only 7 months into an entrepreneurial journey, and I've had to eat my own mistakes, eat my own words, man, like the stuff that you end up having to do when you're making deals for yourself but are new at it. If sometimes it's going to take a toll on the relationship. And when I talk to Shay and say, hey, I made a mistake when I set this thing up, or I overcommitted on this particular thing. It's not a mistake that I'm proud to have made. I'm not happy to be up here till 3 a.m. doing this or that. But it's just something like we approach these speed bumps and keep on going. But wow, thank you for sharing. Because
well, and I look at you, Chris. It's so interesting. I feel like big sister-ish maybe to you a little bit. And Bree, you'll get why, because although Chris went on this entrepreneurial journey, he started at startups as a data scientist, and now he's moved into payer land. So I feel like some days I'm watching you go in and I'm like, watch out, there's a rock, it's coming, right? And so he's like, Melissa, have you heard about this AEP thing? And I was like, OEP, like open enrollment? And the words are a little bit different. And I'm like, oh, your first OEP. It's so cute, right?
I love that. Also, for you both, it sounds like you're both doing a lot of reaching and you both have a very clear purpose now. Have either of you rested this past week?
No. Oh, I took a sauna, but that was because it was on my wellness plan. I was executing my wellness plan.
You were doing your body commitment of sauna.
Right. Check.
I did let's call it a reduction in hours. Like for those that don't know, she's training as a OB-GYN at Henry Ford Health System, 4th year of residency, woohoo. But we're talking
Go Shay.
80 to 100-hour weeks plus. If you include the time, like they don't even include in their hours tracking like the time that they're tracking notes and things like that. They act like that's not work, but that's definitely work. Come on now. But yeah, she had the week off, so we did do a little traveling, and I limited my client engagements and stuff like that. But it doesn't quite count as that full degree of rest. Got to see, we drove through Pittsburgh, then drove to DC. I had a 1-day conference that I had to do in DC. Okay. But on the way, and West Virginia as well. beautiful, beautiful mountains, countryside and stuff like that. Just got to switch up the vibe. Love Detroit, but too flat over here. Had to go and see some hills and mountains and
Oh,
stuff.
I can hear you singing country roads over there. Like, Brie, what about you? How did you spend your week? Did you rest?
I did have some rest. Well, first of all, Chris, I'm hearing two really great pillars of like time with your partner for your heart, and then also like mental health, like getting out in nature. So you got two of the three in the core there. But yeah, um, this past week actually, so I one of my commitments for my heart is to be fully present when I'm with my loved ones, particularly my daughter and my husband. And so we actually took a week. It was my birthday last week, and we went to a beach in South Carolina and just spent time like it was my daughter is 4 now, and just to see her on the beach like collecting seashells and just, like being present in that moment with them was so lovely. So yeah, so I got to enjoy just some like feet in the ocean in the waves and some really quality time with my husband and daughter, which was lovely.
This is a good framework. Keep asking us questions. We probably need to
When
do
you put
more.
it into perspective of like what you're doing, because like, I mean, we focus sometimes on the individual components. Like we talk a lot about mental health, but it's like, hey, what you do for your body, your physical health impacts your mind, or relationships. We don't talk enough about the health of our social relationships, but Dr. Vivek Murphy has a really great just epidemic of loneliness out there that says that having poor social relationships is worse for us than smoking 16 cigarettes a day. So it's just having that framework to think about your holistic self and what you're doing for each of the things, I think is really a powerful just visual to be thinking about your ecosystem and what you're doing to support it.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. Chris and I both, when we started this podcast, to not gatekeep ourselves, I think we were aligned in the mission that no matter your identity, payer, startup, provider, innovation is hard. And we were trying to give like hope to others. And that's why episodes like this really matter to us, because when you get so obsessed with like making something better or fixing something or even just doing a great job at your role, it's really hard to keep that balance of all the 5 different areas for sure. My husband said something to me. It was really important. He was like, yeah, you've been so focused on, building the business. Now he didn't leap into the emotional state, but he was like, I feel like you've not been there. And I go, well, you feeling like me not being in here and focused is not an emotion. That is right. That's not an emotion. It's a statement. And so like, well, what emotion does that evoke for you? But also I hear you, right? Maybe we need to make sure we're focused on things that matter to both of us, not just the business.
Yeah. I think something that comes to mind when you say that of like innovators. So at the very top of my framework is a box for purpose. And I specifically talk about in my book how if you haven't defined your purpose yet, that's okay. Like sometimes you just need to live life and experience things. And eventually all these things piece together into something only uniquely you can do, right? But in the meantime, if it's not clearly defined, like experience life so it comes together. I think with entrepreneurs and innovators, a lot of times your purpose is really clear and that gives you like a sense of energy, right? But you got to remember like it can't happen overnight. And so what am I going to stay grounded in when a payer says no, or like something is not approved, or like what do I want to stay grounded in when things don't go my way? And then how am I supporting myself so that I have the grit and the resilience to make that purpose happen over the long haul?
Now, Melissa, when I ask this question, I don't want to imply that I've never experienced burnout or anything like that. But like, since this is something very close right now that you're experiencing, can you describe what burnout feels like?
Oh, interesting question. So I can't tell if I am burnt out. I don't know if I'm all the way there. Maybe Bree can help, assess me. But as an example, one day I just wanted to sit on the couch and do nothing. Now I could not do that because I have 2 children that need my attention and a husband. But that is really like I didn't even want to move. I felt very heavy. I was up late, like I'm looking at more the symbols. Like I'm working sometimes till like 1 or 2 because I had to take like a 2-hour break in the middle of the day to handle the business, the building thing that I did not plan for. But I think for me, when I think about my energy capacity, it's been worse. right? Like I'm like, oh, there's so many good things. I love the good things. So I don't know if I technically qualify for burnout, but definitely very, very, very tired. You know, I probably haven't engaged in as much with my friends as I normally would. I feel a little bit bad about that. I'm actually looking forward to the upcoming conferences so I can like hang out with people.
Mm-hmm. I was just wondering, and Bree, I like now that she surfaced that, am I trying to facilitate like a therapy session? I don't know. I just
Should we diagnose me? Melissa needs more
Yeah, no,
hours.
we're not, I am not a clinician or
I used the
a
wrong
therapist.
word.
I know. I am like getting my coaching certificate, but I think what's interesting about like as you think about self-reflection and where you are on that burnout scale, like I mean, I made it to all the way crash and burn, right? Like just total like off the deep end, but like I think there's a spectrum there, right? And some of the, as you talk about the World Health Organization and just thinking about the buckets that go into burnout, first of all, it's that exhaustion and not just like tired, but like you're physically, emotionally, just like constantly drained, right? So there's that emotional like drainage. There's kind of disengagement is another bucket of like you just don't care the way you used to, or you just feel disenfranchised. And the third bucket is around lack of confidence. So where you used to have confidence or believe in yourself, you start to doubt your abilities and yourself. And I think the important thing to know is that you don't need all three of those things to be burning out or on your road to burnout. Like when I crashed and burned, I was exhausted physically, emotionally, everything. And I was also lacking confidence, but I never got disengaged. Like I almost cared too much, So as you think about those three buckets, it doesn't have to be all three of them, but those are typically the three buckets you think about as you think about the burnout spectrum.
Yeah. So fam, I don't think I am on that road. I think I hit a road, like a speed bump in the entrepreneurial journey this past month. I don't feel like I resonate with those categories. At this point in my life, I actually feel more energized. I tell most people I've never been more joyful. I've never felt more like myself, kind of sitting where I sit now. I'm very grateful for that. But I definitely resonate with your crash and burn story. Like I think I know the 2-3 times in my life I absolutely lived it. And it really goes back to what we started talking about in the episode prep, is that I say yes to way too much. I'm like, yes, I can do it all, but you cannot.
You can't do it all. I mean, there is a reality that like we are not machines. We are not. I when I was doing my book, I got to talk to Dr. Adams, a former Surgeon General, and we were talking about my crash and burn experience and my framework and how I just, how I just kept driving myself and how we're not machines. And he had this beautiful statement of, not only are we not machines, we treat ourselves worse than machines. Like we inherently know that machines need rest, that you can't run them too long in the summer or they overheat, or like you need to warm them up a little bit in the winter, but we don't, like we're so much more valuable than machines, but we don't even treat ourselves with that same level of respect. And I think that's so important to remember, is like we get into this very efficient mode, like in the healthcare system and in society in general. It's like you get down to how many minutes are we spending on this, or like this margin or whatever, and we try and almost turn ourselves into that more machine-like rhythm. And it's like we're not dealing with machines, we're humans, and so are we treating ourselves with that level of respect that's needed? Because we have some great capacity. I think as humans, we have an amazing capacity to innovate, to do creative things, to think outside of the box. But if we're going to have that capacity to do those amazing things, we need to respect our ecosystems and what we're doing for ourselves.
So when it comes to this, like checking in on our energy levels and our capacity to do great things, you've been in healthcare and you've seen how people manage themselves and their teams. What is your advice to leaders who might be messing this up for their teams and not knowing it?
So one of the things I offer now with the book is, besides just speaking and half-day workshops, but I offer a 10-week accelerator where we actually go through each one of the components, and we either individually or as a team, we go through and we define. And one of the things I think is super important in this is that the framework is universal, but how you fill it out is incredibly personal. Like what one person on your team does versus another is going to be completely different. Like what fulfills my cup on the heart is very different than my husband, right? So thinking through the components is very universal, but the personalization of what you need to do to unlock your best capacity is very, very personal and unique. And so I think first and foremost for leaders, you need to do this for yourself. Like there is a leadership shadow of you can say things all day long, but if you're not demonstrating a healthy approach to work, your team isn't going to feel secure enough to also do a healthy capacity to work. So first and foremost, are you taking care of your own ecosystem and demonstrating it for your team? And then second is, okay, now that, you've done it for yourself, how do you continually like bring it up with your team and, either facilitating the exercise or book club or something to just reset the culture? And not only is that good for the individuals on your team, it's good for your team capacity. Like it actually, in research and in science and, it's actually been proven that when you invest in well-being, it impacts your bottom line. Like your team is more productive. So I think sometimes people think that well-being and productivity are like two ends of the spectrum, but actually well-being is what fuels like your best productivity. And so when you're thinking about how do I get my best out of my team with limited resources, with, chaos and different environments and AI and all the things happening, the best thing you can do for your team is making sure they have that solid foundation so that they can handle and have the best capacity for your team, your organization, and your mission.
So how do we balance that with if you have that deadline, then the thing needs to go out, or there's a big revenue loss, or the project gets the F. Don't like the F on a project.
Chris, are you burning out right now? Are you asking this question for Chris?
I am asking for me. I don't feel like anytime anybody asks how I'm doing as of this week, I tell them energized. Now, going to DC twice over the past couple of weeks and preparing for these presentations, it took its toll. But gosh, being out there and especially with the NAACP, seeing all those people fighting the good fight, I'm trying to carry a torch here because I know I can maintain a high level of energy, and I'm just trying to share that with other people right now. But I will let you know when that bad head creeps in.
I'm gonna check in on you.
Thank you for doing that, and happy to have the opportunity to check in on you too. Back to the question though. It is for me because I have that tendency to be up till 1, 2 in the morning, etc. So just curious about how to because those deadlines and things like that are very real, and I think that I've gotten better about structuring deals in a way that's more fair to myself and others, but just curious about how you deal with those realities.
It's a great question, and you are in good company because I actually pulled my first all-nighter in 8th grade trying to get an A. And I got the A, but I fell asleep in health class the next day, which is just like foreshadowing at its finest. Mm-hmm. And I actually started my career in investment banking, and I pulled a lot of all-nighters. And then the next day in presentations would like stab myself with pencils to stay awake. And just really bad, unhealthy habits, right? So but the things got done. I got the A's, the achiever side of me was really, really fulfilled. I'd say just two things, and, you have to assess your own situation. One, if you're gonna, have a tight deadline or something's gonna crash, there always are those emergencies and those seasons where, you're thinking about an emergency room, something comes in, you got to deal with it, right? But if that's gonna happen, how are you gonna have a rest season that's balanced with the reach? So if you have a significant reach and you're pulling in and, you're having a company go public or whatever, how are you gonna balance that reach with the rest before you reach again? Are you balanced in those two ends? And so just assessing that for yourself. The second thing I would say is, should you always get the A? Is the A worth it? And I think I had to learn this lesson because I never said no and I never let things fail. But if you never let things fail, then you'll never get the resources or the things, or, they'll just, everyone will just always expect more, and they will always expect that that's normal and that's baseline. And and others' perception is this is baseline. You might be I am up here, I can't handle any more, but then they'll be oh, I want another 10%. And that 10% sends you over the edge, right? So you also have to self-assess, like besides the two ends of the pendulum and are they balanced, is this something I should really say yes to, or is this something I should let fail, you know?
You hit me. I can't even. I got to sit with that one for a minute. Should you always get the A? That is a powerful way to think about it, because like, how do you economize your time and give the A level, like put the A level effort into the things that deserve the A level effort? Like, that's a powerful way to think about it.
Like your family and your partner.
Yeah.
I don't know that we always, at least those of us, can, who are working and momming, give families the A all the time, because sometimes you're like, oh, the family doesn't pay me, right? And I
Yeah.
need to take the A in the place where, the money's coming in. But,
Yeah.
that's an interesting, I wonder how money sits across your framework. Bree, does it play a role in how the energy balances?
I know, and you have to decide, like, when you think about your foundation too, like how, like, we all need money to live, right? But like, as you think about your purpose and what you're aiming for, yeah, money is a way to live, but like ultimately, is that my purpose, or like what is my greater purpose, or what am I valuing? In my entrepreneurship journey, like I definitely took the step away from money to live a bigger passion and a bigger purpose, and I'm stepping away from the money side to be like, no, that's not, yes, I need to live and take care of my family and all those things. But ultimately, if I have more money in the bank, am I going to be happy at the end of my life? Will I look back and be proud of what I did? And the answer is no. So it's a shift for me, not saying that's right for everybody else or whatever else, but for me, myself, like, I did have to do that mental shift of, do I stay on the career trajectory that I'm on and, in a very healthy financial state, or do I take the risk and the leap because I believe in a bigger purpose and, solving a greater problem that I think the world just needs right now. So I will say that one thing. The other thing I will say is, if you haven't read Dr. Vivek Murphy's, I think it's in the New York Times, he has an op-ed where he talks about, like, he was, the U.S. Surgeon General in a really intense job, and he threw himself into that work, right? And when he was done with that job, he fell into a Great Depression because he hadn't invested in his relationships or reached out to friends, and he felt like this level of shame of reaching out afterwards. And so he talks about his own depression after a really high achieving moment, which I think is just so vulnerable and so great, but also a reminder to all of us achievers that, like, sometimes we get and I'm speaking to myself here, I get so focused on my goal and that I forget all of the other elements in my life around me, one big one being my heart and my relationships. And so as you're an entrepreneur and an innovator, my guess is you are very focused on your goal and but are you thinking about all the things that surround you that give you your best capacity to achieve that purpose and goal?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I started labeling people. Are they live to work people or work to live? Like, there's different things that fuel people as they, balance out that equation, where I might need a 90% of achievement across all the companies I'm working with, but how much does my family need? Does my family need 90% too? And one of my favorite entrepreneurs, our favorite entrepreneurs, Dama, had a really interesting LinkedIn post about, like, I think, putting our phone on silent and getting to spend the day with the kids. And that is one of the coolest flexibility moments of being an entrepreneur, is you can just be out of office and there's no corporate boss coming to find you.
Yeah. I think one of the beautiful thing about entrepreneurs that they have that a lot of people don't have is, like, they have a very clear purpose in their head, right? And that vision that can be so energetic. And a lot of people don't have that, right? They're swirling and they're like, what am I meant for? What am I supposed to do? And I think that's such a beautiful thing. But yeah, then having that ability to take that step back and, like, look at the bigger picture and, take a moment to say, okay, if I'm going to achieve this, it's not going to happen overnight. How am I going to combat burnout, invest in my elite energy, and sustain it over the long haul,
And we can roll this all the way full circle to the fact that you're like, when we talk about money and well-being not being opposed to each other, but money being dependent on that well-being. I did have a conversation with a colleague of mine on a project we're working on, and I said, hey man, the deadline, like whenever the client is saying, hey, we can do something, the deadlines you're putting out are far too tight for quality work. Like, yes, it is possible to do that, but to do the checks and maintenance and things like that, to to put something out that we can really be proud of, let's start doubling those estimates. And even though it might feel heroic to let people know that you're super smart and can blaze through and do something fast, let's still give ourselves more time to get this thing to a level that we're proud of. Because even outside of money, there's that artisanal pride in having developed something that works and is beautiful.
There is, if onto the like how well-being and productivity aren't like this. They're not two ends of the the tightrope. It's actually well-being and productivity is like well-being is the foundation of it. If you haven't read it yet, it's a little dated. It's from 2006, but Tony Schwartz led this energy experiment he has a whole company around energy and like goes with the mind and body and things. But he actually did a pilot with Waconia Bank where he had a cohort group and then a control group, and they actually looked at productivity metrics, and they found that the group that went through the energy management program had a 13 percentage point improvement on those metrics versus the control group, and they sustained it for a full year after the wellness program. And one of their metrics, they actually, I think it was like return on loan revenue. It was one of Wacovia's really big productivity metrics. This group that invested in their well-being and went through this program actually had a 20 percentage point improvement over the control group. And so, you talk about statistics, it's actually proven that well-being helps your productivity,
Yeah, I have I'll try to follow up with two studies on that. I have two companies in the well-being space that I know have cited those statistics. I am a complete believer in you've got to invest in things like massage and well-being and financial literacy and fluency and talking about money and talking about budgeting and all the different dimensions that make us who we are. And maybe I just need to add more rest to that equation for myself and others. So speaking of rest and, pop culture and things that are fueling us, Chris, I'm going to popcorn over to you. Tell me, you always have interesting ones. Tell me what you're listening to. What's bringing you joy this week?
Well, there's joy, but there's also somberness. For fans of, like, we're talking R&B legend. We're talking about music legend, D'Angelo. D'Angelo passed away this week, and that same night I was just at the bar getting some ramen, and I was talking to the owner, and he was reflecting on like that we're in Detroit, like this is Motown, this is like the where like we are obsessed with our soul and everything like that, and it was just a surprisingly somber mood, just completely everywhere. And it just made me reflect way back, 5th grade, FM radio, Brown Sugar coming on, and like it was just, I have not heard a more perfect song and more perfect musician. He didn't put out a huge number of albums, but that was due to like the pressures that he felt going up on stage. He was he was a beautiful man, but he felt very uncomfortable constantly being objectified for his body and everything like that, and that took a mental health toll and hurt his capacity and creative output and everything like that. But he's just got such a dynamic, rich story. Every song he's ever put out is a banger, and it was just a time to reflect, listen to that Brown Sugar, listen to Lady, and just reflect back on some good soul music, that unsurpassed level of quality soul music.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I am. I'm glad you are rediscovering, and I think that's wonderful. I could maybe go next. And
yeah,
then
go on ahead. And we need
Bree
to add some D'Angelo
us
to our playlist.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Well, speaking of elite, I have gone deep in the sauna. I am watching episodes of Cheer. I don't know if you all have seen Cheer, but it's a Netflix show around competitive cheerleading. They have great music. They have great stunting. They push themselves to the limit, and I am here for it. I love the competition. I love the drama. I just really enjoy understanding how people get themselves to that like next level or the top of the pyramid. No pun intended.
Is competition one of your strength finders?
Mm-hmm.
Or achiever?
It's achiever and competition's in my top 10. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can hear it. which I love. It's not a bad thing. That's great. Probably gotten you where you are today.
Yeah.
So I'll plug, well, first of all, my husband is actually full-time Air National Guard. He's been in for 23 years, but his passion is music. He sings and plays guitar and does all of his own instrumentation and writes his own songs. So his latest one, Like No Other, is out right now. So Neil Bacon, Neil Bacon. And then Chris and I were talking about actually, like, so one of my side passions too is also music. So besides my husband, I actually was a music major in college, so I have my harp over there, but along with my boxes of Elite Energy books next to me. It's an office of just random Bree stuff. But totally opposite. He's more like pop and, rock, and he'd hate it if he heard I just said pop. So wouldn't associate him with pop. But
is he listening to Taylor Swift? Because if so, he could be my friend.
Yeah. I know. He would not identify himself as pop. So you should edit that out of the podcast or my husband will be mad at me. But yeah, so this is super nerdy, but one of my favorite classes in college was world music. And so before I had my daughter, I went on this whole journey of finding different melodies from around the world and different regions and turning them into harp lullabies, just because I think world music is so fascinating and like the sounds of different cultures is really, really cool. So
you and Chris are new besties. You have to listen to the playlist that he's cultivated. The Indian influenced Ed Sheeran Sapphire is a great little melody if you're into that. But it's probably too poppy for your family. But I think you guys will be friends from this episode on, just sharing your love of music.
I mean, just that, like, your whole vibe, Chris, with like the bricks and it's just so awesome.
Well, I hope we can be friends. Certainly that feeling is felt from this end. And for the others that want to be friends with you or follow you, find out how to maintain that energy and all that, what's the best way they can keep in touch or find your stuff?
Oh, I love it. So Your Elite Energy is on Amazon, but like I said, you can go to www.breebacon.com. There you'll find all my social links. Most of the time it's like at Bree Bacon author, or like Substack, it's just at Bree Bacon. I would love to connect. And I have a 10-week accelerator if you're interested in doing it for your team, of just, hey, how do me and my team actually fill this out? I'm working with a friend from business school to actually source like a whiteboard version of the framework you can put on your fridge, and a physical pendulum. And so there's some fun stuff on the horizon. So would love to connect with you either on social or via email on my website.
Vastly appreciate it. Dare I ask, is the music anywhere too?
Oh yeah. You just look up Neil Bacon or Bree Bacon on like Spotify or YouTube Music, or, anywhere you find music, you can find it.
Stop being so damn cool. Stop.
I don't know if anyone's ever called me cool before, so I'll take it.
Twice in an hour. It's been amazing. Bree, thank you so much for spending an hour with us. It's been an absolute delight, and I know we'll all be a little bit more conscious around how we spend our time and who we spend it with.
I love it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.